We asked Pastor Ed Lapis, why redeem? Why not leave well enough alone?
Sadly, many waves of evangelization also came together with waves of colonization. Christianized Western empires conquered the world and brought not only their political systems, but also the Christian faith.
If I may compare it with translation, why bother put it in your language? Why? Because it speaks to your heart, and you can worship the Lord better with your own culture, with your own language, with your own tradition. Why bother? Because they speak to our hearts. Redeem them so that they can be used to worship God.
It is part of our responsibility as a people and as a nation to be able to show what is our identity, what is our peculiarity, and therefore one way to glorify God is to recover whatever God has given us.
The Christian church had unwittingly turned many peoples of the world into second-class citizens and third-class believers because they had been forced to convert not only to the Spirit of Christ, but also to the culture of the missionary.
Ed Lapis believes that when Christianity becomes culturally generic, the message loses saltiness, power, strength.
One of the goals of cultural redemption is to find very powerful cultural and even linguistic symbols in the recipient culture to be used in the explanation of and sharing of biblical truth. But when we borrow, for instance, foreign coined words to describe or to explain a profound spiritual idea like born again, usually you get into a lot of trouble. But in our language, for instance, we have indigenous phrases that say the same thing and say the same things very effectively. For instance, we say pagbabagong loob, which means literally to change your heart inside of you.
In 1998, the Evangelical Church celebrated 100 years in the Philippines. There has been criticism that it has been a century of hard work with few fruits.
I think that the poor spiritual harvest of the last 100 years could be attributed to poor farming methods. While there are very powerful cultural tools available in the recipient culture, most of the missions opt to use foreign words, foreign paradigms, foreign methods that never really worked. Monte Ohia of New Zealand said that God is a God of variety. God is not a God of sameness. So why there should be only one sound for the entire Christian church around the world? Why should the organ be the only sacred musical instrument? Why should formal Western music be the only music of formal church liturgy? Why should formal Western clothes be the only appropriate dress for Sunday worship?
It's not just the West who is an image of God, no? All cultures, all peoples image God in their own unique ways. And that has to be surfaced. And this means that you surface a peculiar understanding of who God is to you as a culture.
Christianity, which is meant to set people free, must itself be set free from its Western colonial franchise.
He believes that the identity and dignity of recipient cultures must be restored. The errors of past missions corrected. Cultural redemption is premised on his belief that culture is too precious, too beautiful, too powerful a tool to be abandoned and left entirely in the hands of the enemy. The mandate to redeem and restore comes from the Bible, he says. The theology behind redeeming dance for Christian worship is clear to Pastor Ed Lapis and the day-by-day practitioners. Created arts, especially music and dance, come from God and must be used for God's glory.
The whole of creation has been groaning for redemption. Music has been asking Christians, redeem us. Dance has been asking the Christians, redeem us from ungodly use. All the beautiful and powerful creative works of art have to be redeemed, grabbed from darkness, and used as agents of light. Satan does not own anything. He is not a creator. He does not own the arts. Satan only came to grab, distort, appropriate for himself all the beautiful creations of God. And over time, godly people, the church, began to shy away from these things because they think they were satanic. God's people who were themselves redeemed by the blood of Christ must repossess the arts and redeem culture.
It's time for us to be able to say, this belongs to God.